I think the deregulation part of things is particularly important when you think about things like energy or financials, which would really benefit from a Trump administration taking a very, very open stance when it comes to regulation versus a Harris administration, which would likely create a much tighter set of constraints on those entities.
I wonder how energy stocks would do though under a Trump victory. Now, presumably, energy could do well in either scenario if we have geopolitical tensions escalate in the Middle East. So that's dependent on foreign policy. But from my understanding, Trump has been a little bit more pro drilling, correct?
That's right. So you just in this sort of circumstance, you got to separate out essentially those companies that are exposed to the end price action and those companies that are basically support the pipeline for actual production. And it's really in those production elements of the supply chain that are necessary to do the drilling. They're likely to be most benefited from a Trump election.
What about the stock market overall? Is that dependent on the election at all, or more so on the economy and the outlook for growth into the next quarter?
Well, I think if you look back through time, the thing that mostly drives what's going on with the stock market is the macroeconomy and Fed policy. But this is a circumstance where there are relatively divergent views in terms of fiscal policy that could come ahead, and in particular, a Trump administration at an overall stock market level that's going to pursue a tariff increase, which is likely to be it's essentially a middle class tax hike, uh, in contrast, favoring essentially a tax cut for higher income folks, and that composition is pretty bad for demand, and particularly bad for consumer staples and consumer oriented stocks. And so I think you add that up, combined with the fact that that's likely to increase inflation and challenge the Fed to run tighter monetary policy than expected, it's very possible that we're going to see actually a weaker stock market over as if a Trump election gets digested by the market, which is a little counterintuitive given the fact that many people are connecting the stock strength to tax cuts.